Hello friends, today it's going to be a do-it-yourself tech project with Raspberry Pi. It's all about running an ad blocker which is going to block ads in all devices connected in your network. Blocking advertisement and installing trackers on your devices typically require a manual labor on each individual devices, like installing an ad blocker on your browser, another on your phone, another on your tablet, and the list goes on forever. In this video, you will learn how to install and set up a Pi-hole, a general purpose network wide ad blocker on a Raspberry Pi that blocks ads on any devices connected to your home network. This is a great project to get started with the Raspberry Pi who is interested in learning programming and home automation. Let's get started. Why Pi-hole ad blocker? You might have heard about AdBlocker web browser extension on your Google Chrome, which blocks any ad within the browser. But it doesn't work always. You got to whitelist those sites from the ad blocker to continue browsing. Now that the ads are back, that's why we need a different method to block advertisement, Pi-hole. General setup is to configure the IP address on the Pi-hole Raspberry Pi. Then on the router, set the DNS primary server to Pi-hole IP address. When the device connects to your home network, it gets the Pi-hole IP address as its main DNS server from your router. Now whatever hostname you are trying to connect, if there is any ad or ad tracker, the request is instantly blocked. In this way, we can use any browser on your PC, any mobile phone or any tablet on your network to enjoy the ad-free experience. Now let's get started on the hardware. First is a Raspberry Pi Zero or any variant of Raspberry Pi with at least 512 MB RAM. Then a SD card reader and a 8 GB memory card. Then internet connectivity and an Ethernet cable and a power brick to power the Raspberry Pi. A keyboard mouse for execution. Pi-hole is a lightweight software and it's designed especially for Raspberry Pi, so you can use it with any Raspberry Pi model. In my case, I am using a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus for this installation tutorial, and if you don't have a Raspberry Pi yet, you can follow the same procedure with a Linux computer or even a virtual machine running on Linux. Now let's download a Raspberry Pi OS on your SD card using a Raspberry Pi Imager. The Raspberry Pi Imager is available on the official website. Here is the direct link. Once downloaded on your computer, install it like any other application. For Windows user, double-click on the downloaded file and follow the instructions to install it. Keep the default values if you have a choice. Now let's open the Raspberry Pi Imager. And that's the interface, which is pretty easy to use. There are three main steps. Choose the operating system you want to install. Choose the SD card or a USB device to use. Start the writing process. Let's choose the OS. Now I am going to choose a Raspberry Pi OS 32-bit. Once done, you can choose the SD card. In general, you will have only one choice. And then let's write to start the installation. After a few minutes, your SD card will be ready. If your operating system opens empty drives or format questions, you must ignore everything. Imager will do everything for you. Now get your SD card and insert it into your Raspberry Pi. Then start the Raspberry Pi with a screen and a keyboard plugged. Your device may reboot a number of times. Don't panic, this is normal. When you start on the desktop version for the very first time, there is nothing to do. The system automatically logs in and introduces you to a welcome wizard. Select your country and change the default language. Change the password, connect it to a Wi-Fi network if needed, and start system updates. Wait for the updates to finish and restart the Raspberry Pi. Now that the Raspberry Pi is up to date, let's enable the SSH. Let's make sure the Pi is having the static IP. Now open the command prompt and check for any package updates. So everything looks good now. Let's use sudo command to install the Pi-hole. And the installation starts with a very cool picture. The command to download Pi-hole will be given in the video description. Then a standard Debian wizard will start. Let's acknowledge first few windows. Yes, I agree to the fact that Pi needs a static IP. Then let's choose a network interface to which outside internet will be connected. Choose the DNS provider. Pi-hole will forward all requests to DNS servers after filtering them in this case. I'm going to leave it the default value, which is Google. Then the wizard will ask you to enable the web admin interface. I highly recommend doing this. It's a major feature in the Pi-hole and you will love it at the end. It's a long wizard, but basically you can just keep the default value of each screen. You can change everything later with the web interface. After this, the installation process continues by downloading and installing new packages based on your choices. Don't miss the last screen as it will give you the web interface address and the login password. I will explain the web interface in the next section, but before that, we need to tell the clients to use the new DNS server. The only thing to do is to remove all values and set the primary DNS server as your IP, which is 192.168.1.129. That's my Raspberry Pi IP address. Set it with your own. Don't set a secondary IPv4 DNS server except if you have two Raspberry Pi with Pi-hole on your network. This way, any device using DHCP will now use the Pi-hole ad blocker from your network as a DNS server. It can take a few hours to update the device settings on all devices. Be patient or disconnect to reconnect them manually. If you have any desktop connected to internet, right-click on the Start menu and choose Network Connections. Then click on the Change Adapter Settings. Right-click on your current connection and choose Properties. Double-click on the IPv4, which is the Internet Protocol version 4 TCP IP. Set the DNS server to static and enter your Raspberry Pi IP address. Keep the secondary DNS server empty. Pi-hole comes with a great web interface and let's check it now. To access the web interface, open your browser and type in your IP address of the Raspberry Pi followed by /admin. In my case, it's http 192.168.1.129/admin. If you have no idea what's the IP of the Raspberry Pi, type ifconfig on the command prompt and try to get the IP address. Once on the web page, click login and enter the password you got previously. If everything is correct, you will get something like this. On this page, you can see all the statistics about your internet usage. Total queries, how many requests you made, queries blocked, how many requests it blocked. There are also graphs about queries and clients evolution in recent hours. 2 pie chart shows data about query types. And below, it lists top domains and top blocked domains and the same thing for clients. That's pretty cool and it's only the first page. In the main menu, you will find links to the other pages and sections. The dashboard is the first page we saw. The query log, if enabled all the queries you made and if Pi-hole blocked them or not. Long-term data. The dashboard is showing data about the last 24 hours. In this section, you can specify the date range. Whitelist. If a website is blocked by ad blocker and you badly wanted to view its contents, then this is the place to list that website URL. Let's say you want to include Google Analytics here. You can add the link to the whitelist. Disable. Sometimes you may need to disable Pi-hole for a few minutes or permanently to do something specific on your computer. This is where you can do it. The next option is Tools. A bunch of tools to debug Pi-hole. I will let you discover this part. Let's look especially at the settings part now. When you click on the settings menu, you will get 7 tabs with settings form. Basically, you can edit here all the things you previously chose in the installation wizard. The first thing is the system. In this tab, you can check the information about the Raspberry Pi, the Pi-hole version, the usage, and also other logs. DNS. DNS tabs is where you can change your DNS providers and configure more advanced DNS settings. DHCP. This tab allows you to enable a DHCP server on Pi-hole. That's another way to configure clients if your current router doesn't do this. I wouldn't recommend this method for a new beginners. Before wrapping up, I just want to give Pi-hole tips. There are few other things you need to know about Pi-hole. The first thing is updating the blacklist. As you can guess, domain blacklists are changing every day. Like antivirus software, you need to update them regularly to maintain a good protection. To do this, go to Tools, Update Gravity, and click on Update. Pi-hole will download each blacklist file from the specified sources and reload the configuration. The second tip is to have up-to-date software. To do this simple procedure, type the command sudo pi-hole/up. You'll get something like this. In my case, I'm already up to date, but if there is an update, you will see here. So Pi-hole is a super cool tool. Aside from ad blocking, let's say there is a site, domain or a pop-up which is suspicious or malicious and you don't want your kids to be seeing it, or you don't want your employees wasting time with it. Whatever the case may be, all you have to do is insert that domain into the Pi-hole and it's gone across the entire network. Now I am blown away with how much you can do with this small computer. That's it for the video, and let me know if you have any comments or suggestion on this, or if you have got any idea on future episodes. I would love to hear. Hope you enjoy more ad-free experience, and I will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.